All right. This is another testimony, and this testimony is really just to kind of have an idea of how sad these people who doing these things to us, how pathetic their life is actually is, even though they claim to be gods and living, this great life, and where we're gonna die in hell, and they are living in this paradise. It's actually very pathetic and so embarrassing and self-degrading as it gets. As much nastiness and control they have over our body and our mind, to living the life they live is it's just embarrassing. It's so sad. Um, and their life consists of blocking out reality and create this false reality. 2 seconds ago they did this thing where they keep going to memories and create a new version of memories. There was this idiotic. I mean, it's completely like it's comical. They made me think of. I remember what I was 25 years old. I was on a date, and me and my date go to this beach right in Chicago, and we are like like all over each other. This is like second date. She has her bathing suit that's very like revealing, and she's a very curvaceous woman. And during our dates, I'm 25 and we're in the water, but this is like a public beach. It's not. And things got a little bit. I got a little bit excited, right? And I'm 25. I don't care. I'm like, and I'm telling her like, yeah, I'm getting excited. I don't want this to be graphic, but this is the things they kind of bring up and try to manipulate. And this is a beach in public, and there's people there, and she's like, hey, there's people around, and stop it, and they try to create this story like it's like the reason why you get excited is not because you were with this woman who's all over you, who's very womanly, who's dressed in her bikini while you're wearing your swim truck. It's because there were kids around you. That's why it excited you. True, and make me think that way, and have people around you to try to make you accept these things. Target individuals understand that you could be living that life. Like I'm looking at, I went to the balcony of my place, right? These people, every once in a while, they venture there, but it's been a while since I haven't seen people coming from the next door. And like, they have this window where it's, I think sometime once in a while, they yell out of it, right? Big time cowards, by the way, but they love to call themselves theirs. But can you imagine you live in this room there? Your job is to constantly create this reality that falsify reality. That's your job. In the midst of you trying to make this person look like, appear, or think like a certain way in a pedophilia centric way, try to counter reality, you actually working in an environment where the entities really in charge of this are filled with actual pedophiles and it's been exposed. Well, your job is to try to make somebody accept this nonsensical. When they were making me think this way, somebody knocked on the door and tried to make me like feel nervous about it. Like, are you should, between me and you, who should be embarrassed of this? Aren't you humiliating yourself for doing this? Aren't you? Don't you find this embarrassing? Like it's just like you kind of like look at it as like, have you really triggered like manipulate your brain to not see the humiliation on your side to try to create this narrative? They have no shame, and then they try to make me think of a few days. I made a video about it a few days ago, last weekend, I believe. I was in the elevator, and they have this thing where they try to make me guess how old is this person, how old is, and this person came out of the elevator. She looks like 24 plus, and the 24. I think I'm saying like maybe I think she closer to like 28, 29. And she comes out of the elevator. She looks like an adult. She even like look at me and she started laughing at me. She started smirking at me because she knows what's gonna happen. They're gonna try to make me believe that she's an underage or something, but she definitely is an adult. When I say 24 and plus, I think 24 is not, I should be saying 26 and plus. So and they try to make me think of her in a sexual way. Well, now like could I think of her in a sexual way since she's like this? She's an obvious adult. Yes, but they're forcing me to do that to counter this illogicalness. They have no shame. They try to counter and then have this try to do this back and forth. Oh my gosh, you thought about this obvious adult in a sexual way. Oh my gosh, maybe she's not an adult. It was like, come on. I mean, like, she was laughing herself because she knows like she's trying to like. Can you imagine like somebody just looking at you and just start laughing? It's like, because he's like, I know that they're gonna start like they laugh at these things. This is grown like this 25 plus, almost like to me. I look at it like she could easily be almost 30. You understand? And she's like here just laughing at us. Can you imagine? And they're here trying to make me like a subscriber, and to counter this illogical that initially happened with this me and my date when I was 25 years old, and now they try to create this thought about this woman because they can play with how you forced me to think of her like that. Now, is it easy for me to think about her like that? Yes, she's an adult, and she looked like an adult, and she looked like not only an adult, she looked like an adult who's well like 25 plus. And so yes, now can you that's easy. So they were trying to counter that, but at the end of the day, you gotta understand your neighbors are you know your neighbors are there to torment you. Listen to this. But today, after 3 years that I rebelled against them with an attitude and no more doing what they want me to do, because that exactly I did. They started over with the pain, but this time I didn't back up because I knew the new neighbors were listening. And since I knew they introduced themselves as an organization of goodness, I knew they wouldn't torture Emmy in the same manner that I was years ago. So after the initial attack, I took a defiant attitude and talked back. And telling them things are not the same like it was before. I wasn't afraid anymore, because I wasn't the only victim. I felt overpowered by the fact that there's already thousands and possibly millions of victims all over the world, that I felt strong with this. They simply couldn't do anything to change my attitude. And because I took it for so long, I immediately told them so of speak that I wasn't going to change my attitude. That the puppeter that they thought they have is gone, and this is me the real persona. And I wasn't to take their bullshit anymore. Being said this, I started searching in internet for information about the abuse and the weapons that these psychopaths groups are using on innocent Americans. And I was overwhelmed by the horror stories of the target individuals and what their immediate families are going through, the information about the technology weapons that are used by the government, the agencies including CIA, FBI, NSA, Homeland Security, DOJ, etc., and mainly, the very well documented information of the technology in the web, including the well documented organized stalking and torture run by neighborhoods, sort of speak, settled in neighborhoods, under the sponsor of our government. Abe sent my testimony of events since my harassment began. Today, since this coward group of slaves realized I'm not changing in the old ways, they decided to get Emmy in any way possible. I learned through other T's that they'd been assaulted sexually, and I realized I wasn't the only one. Then I knew WE all get the same thing. Also that some of the T's stated that they forced her, through holograms, to see aberrant sexual scenes. That she felt that she was starting likening what she was forced to see every night. That I thought how that could happen. But then I told them that they would never take MY will, and since we all know how this psychopaths groups work with what the TI says or does, then they started during the nights to run some kind of beam, where suddenly I've been wakened up at 3 o'clock in the mornings and some kind of voice comes and say phrases, sound incomprehensible, and some other times can actually catch what is saying. It's not MY voice. A different voice. And I realized that they are trying to program for me to take it in a way that I won't notice a possible change in my behavior. Of course, this is not new, because one main thing this program is out there is called behavior modification for the undesirable,
And that's one of the excuses this groups give for the neighbor to join deception. I learned to talk back, in my mind, during the process, when I was awakened, and I would say demeaning things. That I cannot repeat it in this blog. You know what I mean. Since they had violated me for so long, I decided to aggravate them with words, in my mind. I can hear my own voice. I told them I'm going to make you pay for all of the years of torture that I've taken, and all you are going to hear is aggravation. For every single second of my privacy that you have taken away from me and my family. NGE, in the sense of the word. I thought, this is strange, and then afterwards that strange sensation continue. Then in that moment I realized that was impost. So I thought, look at this losers. Don't know how to put me down, and they are doing this. So I told them that I know what you are trying to do. And I started laughing. And then I said again out loud, you'll never take my will, ASS. So just to show them that I meant what I said, I kept playing with my dog. And even though that attacks continue, I don't let them get me. Today, they continue with the programming of perversion, but this time they are aiming in the use of people, better said young people, also children and homosexuals. When I aggravated them, I usually called demeaning names, and one of them is referring to homosexuals. For me, all of the slaves are misfits. Society haters. Scumbags, etc. No. I don't have anything personal against them, homosexuals. But is my way to aggravate the slaves. And since they love to use children for the torture and stalking, street theater, etc., especially teenagers, for the stalking at close range with an attitude, they are using them during my sleep in the perversion program, and so. You can imagine what the slaves of torture are pretending to do to me.
So you're probably watching me react to my face, and that's not because what I was listening to, but what they were trying to do. As you heard, she talks about neighbors and being involved and doing these things and manipulation. So you see, like for example, the window I showed you. This is the kind of people that would stay there and do their nastiness. But while I was listening to that, they're so disgustingly sad and pathetic. So I talked about right now about this 25 plus, I'm thinking 28-year-old, woman that they were trying to make me imagine in a sexual way, just to try to counter what they were trying to the other narration. But they're changing this 20 plus 25, 26-year-old, 28-year-old into the neighbor, which I made a video about it. There's like a look, actually, there's actually a few kids here, they're actually a teenager. And I remember I posted quickly. I'm going. The video's still out there, but it's private. Of this like little 16-year-old teenager just trying to pose and make herself look, like womanly, and she's like skinny, and she's like a typical teen kid. And they try to make me imagine this kid over there and replace that with this 28 to 29-year-old woman, because they both have glasses and they're both Hispanic, but one has like one is like skinny and the other one is more womanly and is obviously an adult woman, but maybe even 10 years older, 10 plus years older, and they try to change those things to create that. It's just so much manipulation, because my neighbors consist of a lot of teenagers too, actual kids, real kids, which I've taken picture, and I don't even want to put that on unless I put one of them who's trying to post. I put on YouTube, to show how this they were trying to make me look at her in a sexual way, and there's the other ones there, which if they show themselves, I will gladly take picture of them and just make sure I show what they're trying to do. They do use teenager to do these nasty things. They do, just like Mara said. That's her name. They do use teenager and try to force you to look at them in a sexual way. Last weekend, it was an adult woman in 20, like, and she even looked at me, started smiling at me in a sense where, like, she's like, they're gonna try to make you think I'm an underage, which is clearly like 28. But they actually have kids here that are trying to make themselves seen, and there was a few times where I'm looking at, I was like, stop, right? So you could be living their life. Like, I know that for me, because I'm continuously refusing to let them live their fantasy. they're gonna do things that are gonna make them feel better in the sense like you see he's gonna be tortured for all the time you made us look this bad for bringing up the obvious. We're gonna watch that. You're gonna, sometimes they're like he needs to get knocked out because he's talking to us like this way. Yes, you need to be heard. You need to hear what you guys do. And on top of that, I know you're just the bottom. Like she called them losers, and they are losers in the sense that what kind of person, self-respecting individual, will do what they do and find strength in it? It's weak. It's cowardly. And to find yourself, and they like to call it like, "Oh, we're gonna win." Win what? This is the most pathetic things ever. You have to literally have to make somebody lose their, like completely manipulate them. And they tell me, "Oh, they're gonna laugh about you." Listen, one thing is for sure. When they were doing this to me, they wanted me to see them as this facade. This is BS, right? They wanted me to accept this thing where they make themselves believe that they're trying to capture a pedophile when in reality they're the pedophiles. Having to try to manipulate things, even now, just try to change somebody else into somebody else so they can make me. It's just disgusting. But this is not the first time you hear about neighbors being involved in this. This is the norm. You hear that a lot. Another one. I don't want to go too much into this. Plenty of that. And is the thing is, it's always connected to the peripheral type of tormenting.
People, I don't even know. To, I just can't take this whole thing into account so much. I make it so dramatic. It is dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophilia. This disgusting, disgusting, disgusting thing. You saw where I was going with that first word. Disgusting things that I don't even want to talk about because it makes me sick. I don't even like those words in my mind. But it is what it is. So I have no choice now but to acknowledge that there are people in my surroundings or whatever they're doing. I don't know how they do it. I don't care.
There's people in my surroundings, basically neighbors or people who live around that do this thing. And guess what? Pedophilia centric again. So this trash, this is what you could be doing. And they tell me how they're gonna watch me again. It's like you watch whatever. You know the work you have to put in. You know the manipulation you have to put in. You know I know what you've done to and who you've done this to. They've even now they'll try to go into the other manipulation where there's this neighbor like she's like weird. They try to create something out of. It's so sad. All the kind of trickeries to kind of look at them in a and change them into somebody else or have somebody else be somebody. It's so sad, you know. And so you got to be strong. You got to know. Right now in real time when I was watching this, they literally tried to make me think of this adult woman to be the next door neighbor that I saw last time that I took a picture of and put on. They look nothing alike except glasses and both Hispanics. You understand? This is no. They have no shame because they want me to look at this kid in a sexual way and to think that this is something. They are completely different. They look nothing alike. But because they both got glasses, now they try to. My memories and my is are completely manipulated. It's so sad. So sad. But oh, they're really trying to morph these two together, like the kid and this 20-year old, and somebody and somebody's like, oh, you're attracted by her. So they're so pathetic. And to all of my target individual, they're gonna do everything to get you to accept. But I don't understand how they have no shame. I don't understand. Where do they get the strength to have no shame, no self-respect? Like, what do they? Are they this compromised? Because I would be embarrassed, and maybe that's why they keep claiming that they are war because maybe that takes away from the shame. But they're not even at war. This is pure manipulation. So to all my target individual, you could be doing things they do to people and being in a room like that, doing all kind of things to somebody, living your life manipulating somebody to think in this disturbing way, doing things to his body, and try to make him subscribe to it or to her, to make her subscribe to you. It's no, they have zero shame. To stay strong and know that justice will be done, and understand that you're lucky, regardless of how horrible things you're gonna go through, that you could live in this degrading life they live. Your torture for them is is exciting, but what an empty life. This is so sad. And they claim that this winning, it's sad, it's pathetic, and they're gonna get theirs.